What's up, and welcome to the Unwatchables. This here is a show where we talk movies that are typically unwatchable. Today we're going to talk about Mortal Engines. I'm Kylie, and I'm joined here with Marcus.
Hey, how's it going?
Alright, so what is Mortal Engines? Well, in a post-apocalyptic world where cities ride on wheels and consume each other to survive, two people meet in London and try to stop a conspiracy. A mysterious young woman, Hester Shaw, emerges as the only one who can stop a giant predator city on wheels devouring everything in its path. Marcus, what did you think?
Well, Mortal Engines was, I suppose you could call it a movie. I guess so. I watched it in a movie theater. I paid to watch it. And there was things happening on screen. What did you think about it?
Yes, I think it was a movie. I thought overall it wasn't boring. I was entertained throughout, but I just thought that, I don't know, the lack of character development really was a turnoff for me, and I never really got into it. I didn't care about anyone involved.
Yeah, I mean, so I purposely went out to watch this movie when it came out because I thought to myself, oh, this would be a great thing to review for the Unwatchables. So I remember I watched it by myself in a movie theater that only had one other person, and I wanted to leave like 8 minutes in. Like, I almost did leave. Like, I wanted to leave, and I haven't contemplated, but I thought, no, like, I have to stay for the Unwatchables. Like, if it's this bad that I feel like it was torture, I had to stay. And, I'm glad that we finally have an opportunity to talk about it. I would say for the movie, well, I guess we're going to do things a little bit differently for the Unwatchables for now. We're going to do a little bit more structure. So the first part of the new structure we're going to try is what doesn't work for the movie. So, Kylie, what are some things that don't work for the Mortal Engines, in your opinion?
So, well, I guess I already stated this, but there just was a total lack of character development. You have Hester Shaw, who, in the beginning of the movie, her main goal was to kill Valentine, who, by the way, every evil character in a movie is named Valentine. And she doesn't succeed, so the rest of the movie is basically her attempt to get after him and stop his plan, his big plan. And in the end of the movie, she ends up not killing him. So I guess you could say that there was some character growth, but then they shot him out of the sky and he died anyways. So yeah, I'm just not really sure. And then with Tom, you didn't really learn any of his backstory. He was the other lead character. You didn't learn much about him, and so it was hard to say if there was any growth with him. It just, I don't know, I just felt like the lack of depth, like the shallow characters were just such a bummer. I wasn't really interested in them.
Well, I mean, I feel like a movie kind of has an uphill battle when the main character doesn't talk for the first half hour. Yeah. Like, I feel like the lead girl barely says or does anything for the first, 20 to 30 minutes. I mean, you kind of see her eyes. I mean, she's got the bandana covering her mouth and nose, but yeah, I mean, there's so many things that doesn't work for the movie. First off, I think, well, the basic plot in and of itself really doesn't work for me. Now, I know that we live in an era in which films are just showing things that look really over the top, that are really just cartoonish looking, just tons of CG. But with Mortal Engines, I mean, even the concept, the premise, the idea that it's more efficient to live in a moving city on wheels or on tracks, like how tanks have it. Like, the fact that that makes more sense than not living on one makes absolutely, to me, that's so stupid. Like, right off the bat, it's something to do with resources. Like, oh, we live in these cities because of blah, blah, blah and resources, and we eat other cities. Like, it just sounds so stupid. So that's one thing right off the bat. Another thing, like you mentioned, the characters, there wasn't, I didn't think there was one character that I actually liked. Like, they're really, even Hugo Weaving, and we mentioned a movie that he was in the last Back to the Box Office. I think he's a good actor. I think he can play a villain very well, and I think he can also play a little bit of a wise, maybe kind of good guy, like when he's in Lord of the Rings. But in this movie, I didn't like him, and I want to like him too, so that kind of let me down.
Yeah, it kind of helps when you have a villain that you can also identify with, because then it adds more complexity to the story. But in this movie, he was kind of just a power-hungry jerk. That's really all he was. And he didn't even really have any care for his own daughter, it seemed. So, yeah, it was just really hard to relate to anybody.
Well, that's the other thing, too. So, like, you mentioned his daughter. Mm-hmm. I mean, in a traditional film like this, you don't introduce this lead protagonist girl and have the daughter. So, for the main hero, right, for the main, or the main guy, like, that was really, like a dispersion of love interests, kind of felt like. And I really didn't like the way that played out. Like, I feel like it kind of reminded me of The Meg. And in The Meg, they introduced Jason Statham's ex-wife, and you kind of got this idea like, oh yeah, like he still loves her because he's willing to risk his life to, to save her, essentially. So you would think, oh well, okay, like he's gonna get back together with her, and then he gets her back to the base, and then he basically starts to fall in love with that other girl, right? And in Mortal Engines, it's kind of similar. I mean, we know that he has a crush on Hugo Weaving's daughter, but then they introduce the lead and
Hester.
Yeah, and Hester is the lead of the film, but like he obviously has a relationship with her and he likes her. And you just think, what the heck was the point of Hugo Weaving's daughter? Like, that character was so pointless in this movie.
I know, she was really pointless, and also, I mean, I thought that her love interest ended up being Bevis. You remember Tom's friend? She like ran into him and he dropped all of his stuff in the beginning of the movie.
Oh yeah, was he the guy that was like keep it on the DL? Everything with him was like on the DL.
Yeah, he was super weird, and then he just sort of dropped off. He wasn't in the climax of the movie at all.
No.
And then none of that was fleshed out, so you don't really know what happened to him. And it seemed like he was kind of involved, He was friends with Tom.
Yeah.
But he just dropped off, and we never saw anything from him again.
It's another character that really, granted, I know Mortal Engines is based on an existing IP, so for whatever reason they thought they had to adhere to the IP's characters and all that stuff and plot points, but like Hester's like robotic father, what he wanted to accomplish in its relationship to the plot was just so like it was truly unwatchable. Like everything he was doing, like he looked like a character from the movie 9. Do you ever see 9 where they're the dolls and they come to life, like whatever spirits goes in these little dolls? He looked like that. But he looked terrible. He did not look like a contemporary 2018 CG character. He looked like a 2008. And he had like the green eyes, and he wanted to turn Hester into like a robot without a soul.
Yeah, they're called like the Resurrected or something. That's what he was. I can't remember if that's what it was called, but that's just what I'm going to call it. And it's because... So, you're just supposed to deduce that he had lost his son when he was still human, and so to get away from the hurt of that, I don't know if he killed himself or if someone else converted him, but then he lost feelings, and so he wanted to do the same for Hester because she had lost her mom, and I don't know, I guess Valentine was after her or something. He would have killed her, and so he was just going to spare her all of that and kill her so she wouldn't have feelings anymore.
Yeah, which is so dumb. Which is really like...
But in his mind, it was saving her, I guess. But if he doesn't have any feelings, I don't understand how their relationship developed. Why did he save her? Why did he raise her? I just didn't understand.
He was willing to risk his life to, quote, fix her. Along the way, he's killing multiple people. Like, when he goes to that, whatever, Zeppelin town, or whatever it is.
Hot air balloon place?
Yeah, hot air balloon place. Like... He destroys the whole thing. Like, he kills multiple people.
And, okay, there's a sign right when they walked in, and I think it was foreshadowing, but it said no sparks, like, or no flames, because, obviously because of the helium or whatever. But, what is the point of having a floating city? Is it just to get away from the cities on wheels or whatever? It just doesn't seem like, how do you get your resources up there? How do people exist? That just makes no sense. You have to suspend so much disbelief for this movie. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, this movie does really nothing to earn your belief. Like, we see the cities are moving around, and the land doesn't look that destroyed. We know there's resources. We know that they're digging for stuff while they're moving. Granted, I know everyone, they mock, Exposition or CinemaSins or other shows. They mock and they say, well, exposition time and blah, blah, blah. But sometimes exposition is good to know what the heck is happening. Like, it gives you a concept of, like, there's this, there's that. Like, here's a little bit of explanation. And, even like Lord of the Rings, a lot of people praise Lord of the Rings exposition, which again, that was directed by Peter Jackson. Peter Jackson then works on this film. Now, granted, he's only a producer; he didn't necessarily direct it, but the director of this film was like a longtime friend of his, and I believe he worked on Lord of the Rings as well. This exposition, I mean, I think they say something at the beginning, but I mean, just like god awful. I mean, Lord of the Rings had probably on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe like a 9.5 in terms of like best exposition ever for a movie. Like the whole beginning of Fellowship of the Ring, they have the whole story about how the rings were created, the story of man and elves and dwarfs and all that stuff. Mortal Engines, it's like there was a war and people had to live on moving cities and blah blah blah, and it's like this makes sense. And then you're watching, you're just like, what? Like, and then like you said, you have a hot air balloon city, like that looks so makeshift, and you're just like, like what? And then, I mean, to, I guess go further on with the characters, her mom's friend, that woman.
Oh, was it Anna?
Anna was
the Asian woman?
Yeah, the Asian woman. I don't really care for her that much. I don't know. I guess I didn't hate her, but
she just seemed really textbook. She showed up in the sunglasses, just this. I mean, I want to call her a vigilante, but I know she was just sort of a criminal.
Yeah.
But she just shows up in her sunglasses, which I think is really cliche, and she's just very stern and like, let's get out of here, kind of a thing.
Well, I also feel like her outfit didn't even match the universe. Like,
I didn't
she was
notice.
in a whole red suit, wasn't it?
I don't remember. I didn't pay attention to the costumes very much. They were kind of boring.
Yeah, but like her outfit, yeah, she was like in like a red suit, and like she looked really.
Was she dressed like an aviator or something? Like a pilot?
I guess maybe that was the jacket.
Maybe why. Yeah.
I feel like she was like really well kept for living in that really rundown hot air balloon city.
And I think she was wearing eyeliner too. Which
Okay.
I don't know why anyone would be wearing makeup in that world, but it seems like there's more important things going on.
That's a very good point. Well, I guess we kind of already talked about this a little bit, but what were some things about the movie that like turned you off? Like, what were some things you're like, okay, I'm done with this?
Well, okay, I guess we already talked about this, but just right from the get-go, after that brief little exposition with Shrek's disgusting voice, you're just thrown right into this chase scene, I guess, which was just kind of uncomfortable and weird to me. And then right off the bat, she's running on this moving city, and it's pretty obvious. I feel like it's really clear that she's just running in front of a green screen, and then everything else is just kind of CGI behind her, and it really doesn't look good. So immediately I was like, oh god, I'm in for over 2 hours of terrible special effects, and so I was just super turned off from then.
You're saying it like towards the beginning when she falls into the garbage when it's dumping out of the city, and then the guy gets kicked in? Oh.
No, so she's still on the mining city, and all of the little pop-up shops or whatever they are like folding down, and it's getting ready for a chase or a battle or whatever. And so it's all kind of collapsing behind her, and she's just running in front of it, and it's just really apparent because she's just right in the forefront, and so you can kind of tell that it's just a green screen, and everything that's happening behind her is not actually happening. It just doesn't look good. I
see what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that really turned me off from this, I agree with you, is the CG. And I feel like there's a number of directors that, for whatever reason, like modern technologies and films really destroyed them. Like Peter Jackson is a perfect example of someone that was so much better without modern technologies. I mean, again, and I'm only talking about him so much because he worked on this film. You see Lord of the Rings, there's some CG, but not a ton. And then you get to King Kong, and King Kong had CG, but it wasn't totally littered with it, and I thought that was pretty good. You get to The Hobbit, terrible. Like, the CG is just over the top. And in this film, like you mentioned, there's so much CG, and it's so much not good CG, that, I mean, you're just watching, you're just like, oh my gosh, like, this looks so fake. That was a major turnoff for me. I mean, we already talked about the plot and the characters, but even the overall story, I mean, really, Hugo Weaving, his main goal in this film is to create like a laser beam, a death ray, to destroy the city walls of the one city on Earth.
It's ultimately to get to the resources that he thinks that the people in that city are hoarding, in his mind, that they aren't sharing with the outside world. And so his goal is just to create that big I guess, nuclear weapon to break in and get those resources.
But it looked like a laser beam. Like, it was like
Yeah.
that big purple laser.
Yeah, it was weird. It was hard to describe. It was some sort of core reactor thing.
Yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, this whole movie, I mean, the whole thing is a gigantic mess. So you're introduced to Hugo Weaving, and you know he's a bad guy, and he's like number 2 in command of the city, right? And he, whatever, kills his way to the top. And then, you know, with Hester, like you said, I mean, she just hates Hugo Weaving, and then by the end of the film, she's like leading a rebellion against him. I mean, the end of this film, Mortal Engines almost turns into Star Wars, partially.
Yeah.
There's a death ray. There's a bunch of pilots flying in to stop him. Yeah, I was just like, what is happening even now?
Yeah,
and we're supposed to care about the people in the city?
Tom even flies into the, I guess it's where the engine's core is, and he shoots at it and it explodes. So it's exactly like Star Wars.
Yeah, and then even further on with the Star Wars comparisons, like Hugo Weaving, it turns out to be her father.
Wait, I totally missed that.
Yeah, he says,
really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. How did I miss that?
Yeah, he says, I forgot, oh my gosh. Yeah, I forgot exactly how he said it, but yeah, he's like...
So it's totally just a Vader moment? Like,
well, he doesn't say, like, I am your father,
no,
like
I'm
that.
your father.
But yeah, he has that. And then I'm pretty sure she does kill him. Like, she either lets him die or she purposely kills him.
So I think she had the knife held up to him or something, but then Tom flew up, and then she said, he said, all right, well, if you're going to kill me, do it now. And then she said, no, I choose to live or something. And then she just threw the knife down and she hopped up on the plane.
But I think the aircraft that Hugo Weaving's on, I think, crashes and explodes.
Well, they shoot him down. Tom shoots him down.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah, so he's dead.
She decides not to kill him, but then they just kill him anyways. That was so weird.
Yeah.
And then he gets crushed by the giant wheel.
Yeah, I mean, so she killed him. I mean, or whenever Tom killed him.
She basically did.
I mean, yeah, I always think it's such a, like, not a good storytelling device when your main villain, his whole idea is that I want to improve my whatever society or my people by killing or taking over other people. I mean, it just never... I can't think of a movie where that actually looked really good. Maybe I'm wrong, and if I am, like, don't hate me. I just can't... Every time I've ever thought of a film like that, they're always really dumb. Like, they're always like this, like, oh, well, I'm doing it for the good of everybody, but then they're also a jerk. And you're just like, well, why are you willing to sacrifice yourself to destroy that city walls when obviously, you know, like the city that they're in is obviously thriving. They're eating other little cities. So
I mean, it also doesn't make any sense because if he really cared about the people of his city, he wouldn't have set their city's course straight for the wall for them to collide with the wall because that would definitely kill a bunch of his people. So I mean, I guess the only thing that he really wanted was power, but I don't know. I mean, after he destroys his own city and the city on the other side of the wall is destroyed, what is he in power of? It just, I mean, his goals weren't really clear. His intentions didn't make much sense.
Yeah, that's true. And even when he took the throne for himself, so to speak, it was a pretty easy process for him to just kill that guy.
Yeah.
That bald guy that was the whatever constable, whatever his official role was. He just killed him, and that was it.
Yeah. I don't know how he got so many people on his side for that. But
do you think, is this the worst movie you've ever seen Hugo Weaving in?
What else has he been in? So I'm trying to think, because I think that it probably is, but...
He was in V for Vendetta, the Matrix trilogy, Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I think this was probably his worst. Do you think so?
I haven't seen him in a ton, so yeah, out of those movies, this is the worst that I've ever seen him in.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, he's, like I said, I mean, I wanted to like him. I mean, he's the only actor I can even remember. I honestly don't even know if I've seen any of those other actors in other movies.
Well, no, the main character, Hester Shaw, her name, I can't even pronounce her name, but she's from Iceland. So that's why she kind of had that weird accent sometimes when she was talking, but not all the time.
Oh.
It's because she's from Iceland. Yeah, her name is Hera Hilmarsdottir.
Oh, wow, that's a mouthful.
Yeah.
I mean, not to necessarily reference the last Back to the Box Office, the Dumbo and Matrix one, but Yeah, with accents, you either should have them or not have them. Like in Dumbo, I'm not sure if you've seen that yet, but Michael Keaton, his accent changes throughout the movie. And I hate that. Like, there's sometimes he talks like how Michael Keaton normally talks, and there's other times he has like a weird kind of like upper class accent, and he goes back and forth, and it's terrible. And like you mentioned with Hester, like,
it's just inconsistent.
Yeah, you can't be inconsistent because normally people either they have some kind of accent or they don't have an accent. They typically don't fluctuate in between the way that they sound.
Yeah, because I was wondering, throughout the movie, that was another turnoff. I really didn't like her voice. But I just felt like I was being irrational. I was like, Kylie, why are you judging her for her voice? But then I realized that it's because her accent was changing like every other scene.
So now let's give it our grade of one timer, no timer. Kylie, what do you give it?
Honestly, I mean, okay, I think for general audiences, I think it's a no timer. But I think that if you're really into super big action, this might be a one-timer for you. I don't think it's worth going to the theater for. I watched this movie in the comfort of my own bed this morning, so, I mean, I was fine with it. I would say it was maybe a one-timer, but I don't really recommend it for anybody.
I feel like when I was watching Mortal Engines, and it crossed my mind in the first 10 minutes I was watching it, and throughout the whole movie, I literally think that this is one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. Like, it's one of definitely, like, we're going to do an episode later this year, which is the worst films of the 2010 decade. This movie is definitely on that top 10. Like, other films on that top 10 are Mother, Replicas is on that list. Yeah, this was just, I mean, especially when I watched it at the movie theater, like, I had so much, like, fire about this movie. I was like, wow, this was terrible, that was terrible. And you know, it's been a little while since the movie came out. It's been 3.5 months since I've seen it, and it's kind of quelled a little bit. But yeah, I absolutely hated it. Like, I didn't think the special effects didn't look very modern. The plot really wasn't that good. There really wasn't any good hand-to-hand combat. There's the scene at the end where Hester's fighting Hugo Weaving.
Yeah, but that was weak.
Yeah, that wasn't very good, and it didn't really look competitive. And yeah, I mean, you know, for whatever reason, I keep thinking of the scene where the woman in the red suit, the Asian woman, where she like fights all those people at that like human auction.
But she just shoots everybody.
Yeah, and
that's it. Yeah.
I mean, even that's a little bit like, wow, like, you know, that's really diplomatic, I guess. I mean, there's just so many weird things in this film. Yeah, there's human auctions. There's, well, I guess the mole people sold the two main people to human auction. I mean, there's so many things to hate. Like,
the Minions. Remember in their museum of ancient artifacts or something, there was like a statue of Minions, which was just so weird.
That is really random.
Oh, and another thing, if they are living in a universe where the Minions did happen and movies were a thing, why are all the screens in their world so terrible? They're all these just little round, super staticky things. I mean, wouldn't technology have progressed? I mean, they're living on giant cities that wheel all over the place. How is their technology so far behind?
We can't even build RVs that don't break down often.
Yeah.
I mean, they have technologies to move around like capital cities size and not stop. Yeah, no, that was a big thing in this film, was the whole idea of like, oh, the forgotten technology. We forgot all this technology and blah, blah, blah.
He freaks out over a toaster.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, we saw that in the film in the not Back to the Future, Planet of the Apes sequel. Like in the original sequel that came out, whatever, 1971, where, you know, there was that whole idea of like, oh, and even in Planet of the Apes, the first one, there's like that idea of like, oh, all this old tech that we lost and blah, 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 and humans devolved. But yeah, I mean, in this film, it's kind of like a steampunk movie, but for whatever reason, they're advanced in certain regards, and then, like you said, it's like, oh, it's a toaster oven, like, this was blowing our minds, and yeah, I mean, it was just, it was so corny, it was really so inconsistent. Cheesy. Inconsistent, and yeah, I mean, I feel like for most people even that are eventually going to even listen to this review, I mean, I don't even know what you would get out of it. I honestly, if you were to watch this film, I don't even know. This is worse than Netflix level. Like, this is worse than a Netflix movie. Now, granted, it has a bigger budget than most Netflix movies get, and it doesn't have that Netflix-looking movie feel all Netflix movies feel the same way. This isn't that, but my gosh, I feel like Peter Jackson should not be involved with movies anymore. Like, I mean, I was never that huge of a Lord of the Rings fan anyways, but yeah, he should not be involved with producing or directing anything.
I just think that thematically it was so dry. I mean, I don't really know what anyone's supposed to learn or gain from this movie. There's nothing deep about it.
Nothing at all. I mean, I was reading a little bit about the production history, and I think they fought for like a long time to get this made. But yeah, I mean, get what made? What was the message? I mean, who... Like, there wasn't even an overall... I mean, if there was a political message, it would have been something stupid. Or
well, like, there were some really subtle ones. I mean, there was when they overtook the city and the people were sort of flooding into London. There was, over the loudspeaker, they said children may be separated from families and whatever. And I was just thinking about, oh, well, yeah, like that stuff going on at the border and whatever. And just the fact that he had a nuclear weapon, and I don't know if that was supposed to allude to, you know, what's going on with the US and Korea and whatever, but I don't know. I just find that kind of annoying. I think sometimes it's better to just leave it out if you're not going to flesh it out at all.
Well, that's the thing. Either, like you saying, like, you either do it right and you do it like it's just like or you just leave it out. Like, to throw in something like that, like, you know, parents would be separated from their kids. It's just so, like, half-hearted.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're going to be political, be political. If you're not going to be political, then just don't. But
just
like,
leave it out.
This little half measure... Yeah, I mean, even at the last scene of the film where, like, the wall is kind of cracked in, and there's all these people standing on the wall, and there's the Londoners or whatever, Londonites, whatever they call themselves, when they're, like, looking at each other, and we're basically seeing a lot of people that we've never seen on camera before looking at each other, and I kind of laughed. I was like, oh my gosh, like, what is happening here? Because there was a lot of people who were like, who is this?
I mean, I think that the point of that was just to show that, you know, it's not the people versus the people, it's the governments versus the governments, you know, and so I think they were just showing that they were welcoming them in regardless of all the stuff that just went down. I don't think it added anything to the movie, but I think that's what their intent was.
Thinking.
Yeah,
I don't know. Definitely, like I said, I mean, we'll have to do that later this year, our top 10 worst films of the decade. That could be like a really long episode, but in my opinion, this film, all I know definitively is that Mother, Replicas, and this are on that top 10. I'd have to think about other films, but definitely those three.
It's a good start.
Yeah, good start to a bad list, I guess. Well, yeah, definitely, yeah. Thanks you guys for listening to the Unwatchables. You can catch us on iTunes and Spotify, and we have quite a few other shows on the channel, so make sure to check that out if you have the time. This is Marcus, and I'm here with Kylie.
All right, we'll see you next week.